A purchase order for €50,000 is created in Me21N. Someone needs to approve it before it goes to the vendor. But who? How does SAP know? How does the approver get notified? How does the system remember what decision was made and what happens next? The answer is SAP Business Workflow, the process automation engine built into every SAP system. It routes work items to the right people, tracks decisions, escalates overdue approvals, and connects business events to human actions. This module shows you the core concepts and how to build, trigger, and monitor workflows from ABAP. These first 4 objectives lay the foundation. Workflow concept: by the end you will understand SAP Business Workflow at the conceptual level. Work items as units of work, agents as the people who handle them, the container as the workflow's shared data store, and tasks as the executable building blocks. Inbox navigation: you will be comfortable opening and processing work items in the workflow inbox under SAP Business Workplace, SBWP, and in Fiori My Inbox, including forwarding, reserving, and completing items. Agent determination: you will be able to describe how SAP decides who receives a work item at runtime, including the org model, expressions, and rule function modules, and when to use each. Container and binding: you will understand the workflow container's standard elements, _W_object_ID, WF_initiator, _W_object, how to define custom elements, and how binding wires data between the workflow container and task parameters on step entry and exit. The remaining 4 objectives are hands-on. Standard task creation: you will create a standard task in SWDD referencing a business object method, set its agent rule, define container elements, and write the work item text that users see in their inbox. Approval workflow: you will build a simple approval workflow with a start event, an activity step running the standard task, a decision step for approve or reject, and 2 end states. You will test it in SWDD before activation. Trigger from ABAP: you will trigger the workflow directly from ABAP using SAP_WAPI_create_instance with a filled container, or via business object events with SAP_WAPI_create_event, and you will know when to use each. Monitor in SWI1: you will monitor running workflow instances in SWI1, diagnose work item errors with SWI6 for object-specific traces, and use SWIA to restart errored items after the root cause is fixed. 6 core concepts underpin SAP workflow. A work item is the unit of work that appears in a user's inbox. Clicking it opens a transaction or web page. Completing the action marks it done. An agent is the person or group who should handle a work item, determined dynamically at runtime. The container is the workflow's shared data store, a set of typed elements holding all the data the workflow needs to process and route. A standard task, abbreviated TS, defines one atomic piece of work, one method of one business object. Standard tasks are reusable. Many workflows can reference the same TS. A workflow task, abbreviated WS, is the workflow definition itself, a graph connecting activities, decisions, forks, and waits. Business objects, accessed through transaction SW01, represent SAP business entities like purchase order, sales order, or material, each with attributes, methods, and events. Agent determination is how SAP decides who receives a work item. The cleanest approach uses the SAP organizational model. Assign the work item to a position or job title in PFCG-style org units, so adding a new approver becomes a basis or HR configuration task, not a code change. The expression approach binds a container element, for example the objects created_by attribute, directly as the agent. Custom rule function modules offer maximum flexibility but require ABAP development. The container carries data through the workflow. Every workflow has standard elements. _WI_object_ID holds the key of the leading business object, WF_initiator holds who triggered the workflow, and _W_object_type holds the object type code. You define custom elements in the SWDD workflow header. Binding maps workflow container elements to task parameters on step entry, and maps task results back to the workflow container on step exit. Use ampersand delimiters around element names in text fields. PFAC creates agent rules. SWE2 links events to workflow start. Transaction SWDD is the workflow builder, a graphical editor where you construct the workflow definition. The left panel holds the step type palette, activity to execute a task, decision for user choices like approve or reject, fork for parallel branches, wait for event to suspend until a business object event fires, and send mail for notifications. The canvas in the center shows the workflow graph. The bottom panel exposes step properties, task, agent, binding, outcomes. For a basic PO approval workflow, start activity step referencing your approval TS with a purchasing manager as agent. The outcome branches as approved or rejected. One path runs a notification activity for the requester, then end approved. The other runs a rejection notification, then end rejected. Add deadline monitoring on the approval activity. If not acted on within 3 working days, send an escalation notification. Press F8 to test with sample container values inline. The workflow log shows each step with its agent, container snapshot, and status. When the design is good, activate with Ctrl plus F3. This writes a runtime version and assigns a WS number. Every change requires reactivation for new workflow instances to use the updated definition. Existing running instances continue with the version they started on. Transaction SWO1 is the business object builder. Every workflow references a leading business object, the entity the workflow is about. For purchase order workflows, that is BUS 2012, the purchase order object. BUS 2012 has attributes like PURCHASEORDER, vendor, PURCH_ORG, and net_value. Methods like display, approve, release, and cancel, and events like posted, held, released, and canceled. Sales order workflows use BUS 2032. Attributes sales order, customer, sales_ORG, net_value. Methods display, confirm, cancel, deliver. Events created, confirmed, canceled. Purchase requisition workflows use BUS 2105. Attributes BANFN, BNFPO, MATNR, MENG. Methods display, approve, reject, release. Events created, released, rejected. Self-item represents the work item itself, useful for resubmit and get detail actions. When SAP standard code saves a PO, it raises the BUS 2012 posted event. If you link a workflow template to that event in event linkage, transaction SWE2, the workflow starts automatically for every new PO. No code change is needed in the triggering program. The event carries the object key as a parameter, which becomes the _WI_object_ID container element in the workflow. 3 common ways to start a workflow from ABAP code. The direct method uses SAP_WAPI_create_instance. Pass the workflow template number, fill a container table with element names and values including the _WI_object_ID for the leading object, and call the function module. The workflow starts immediately and the function returns the work item _ID. Use this when you know exactly which workflow to start and want full control over the container. The event-based method uses SWE_event_create or SAP_WAPI_create_event. Raise a business object event such as released on BUS 2012 with the object key. SAP automatically starts every workflow that subscribes to that event through SWE2 or SWDD. This decouples your code from the workflow definition. Adding a new workflow for the same event needs no code change. Status events, change documents, change document_create_via_BO, and message control all fire BO events automatically once configured in customizing. No ABAP needed at trigger time. Always call commit work before triggering. If your PO data is not yet committed to the database when the workflow's business object method tries to read it, the method will find nothing. The work item inbox is where users see work assigned to them. Pick the channel that matches your user audience. The classic channel is SAP Business Workplace, transaction SBWP in SAP GUI. Work items appear in the workflow inbox folder. Double-clicking executes the task. Right-clicking exposes forward. reserve, complete, add note, and view container options. The modern channel is Fiori My Inbox, app F0862, browser-based and mobile-friendly. It connects to the same workflow backend via OData and shows each work item as a card with title, due date, and configured custom actions. Email notifications go through Scott and SOST. The user receives the work item title and a link that launches SBWP or Fiori directly on that item. Configure email under the Workflow Steps General Task Notification settings. For integrations and custom apps, BAP_work_item_getDetail and SWDD_work_item_detail return work item data, and SWDD_work_item_complete programmatically completes a work item, used in custom apps and integration flows. For monitoring transactions cover every diagnostic need. SWI1 is the primary workflow monitor. Filter by workflow template, date range, status, or agent, then drill down on any instance to see all child work items, their status, agents, and container values at every step. SWI5 is workload analysis. Answer questions like, why does this user have so many open items, or who has the oldest backlog, aggregated by user, org unit, or task type. SWI6 is workflows for object. Enter an object type and key to find every workflow that referenced a specific business object instance, plus its current state. Ideal for support tickets on a single PO. SWIA is the administrator view, full powers to forward a work item to a different agent, reset an errored work item, manually set it to done, and view the technical log. Status error usually means agent determination returned no agents, causing the work item to have no recipient, or a container binding type mismatch caused a technical failure. SWIA restarts the work item after the underlying issue is fixed. Creating a standard task in SWDD is a 6-step process. The first 3 steps set up the task definition. Step 1. Create task. Open SWDD task create standard task, or use transaction PFTC_INS directly. Give it a short description. SAP assigns a TS number in the customer namespace with 8 digits. Step 2. Object and method. On the Basic Data tab, enter the object type. For a PO approval, this is Bus 2012, the purchase order object, and the method, for example, approve. The method's import and export parameters become available for binding at the workflow step level. Step 3. Agent assignment. On the Agent tab, set the agent rule. Options are general task. The calling workflow supplies the agent responsible. Look up against the org model expression a container element resolves at runtime, or a specific rule function module via PFAC. Pick the option that matches your routing strategy. The remaining 3 steps complete the standard task. Step 4. Container and binding. On the Container tab, review the auto-generated elements created from the method's parameters. Add custom elements if you need extra inputs or result values. Note that binding itself is defined at the workflow step level in SWDD, not inside the TS. You bind workflow container elements to task parameters when the step runs. Step 5. Work item text. On the Description tab, enter the text users will see in their inbox. Use container references with ampersand delimiters, for example, please approve PO and _W_object purchase order, and for vendor, and _W_ vendor, and worth, and _W_ value in. Delimiters resolve at runtime against the live container. Step 6. Activate. Save and activate the task with Control plus F3. Check the activation log carefully. Common issues are a missing method, an undefined agent, or an unbound mandatory parameter. Once activated, the TS can be referenced in any WS workflow definition. For traps, catch most ABAPers building their first workflow. First, hard-coded agents, putting a username directly in the agent field. The moment that person changes role, the workflow breaks. Always use a rule, a position, or an expression on the container, never a SYA name literal. Second, missing binding, the step runs but the task cannot see the data. The symptom is a dump or an object key empty message. Open the binding editor for every activity step and confirm the workflow container element is bound to the task's import parameter, and the result is bound back. Third, no error handling. When agent determination fails or the BO method raises an exception, the workflow goes to status error and stays there. Define an exception handler in SWDD, configure SWIA escalation, and provide a fallback agent, workflow administrator, so nothing gets stuck silently. Fourth, skipping the F8 test in SWDD, activating without testing means the first error happens in production on a real PO. Always run with test container values, walk every branch, and check the container snapshot at each step before activate. Workflow in one line, work items in inboxes, routed by agent determination, carrying data in the container, executing tasks, TS for one BO method, WS for whole orchestrations. SWDD for design, SW01 for business objects, SBWP and Fiori for the user inbox, and SWI1, SWIA, SWI5, SWI6 for monitoring and error recovery. Trigger from ABAP with SAP_WAPI_create instance for the direct method or SAP_WAPI_create event for the event-based method. Always commit work first, activate the workflow after every change, test agent determination function modules independently before going live, and provide fallback agents. Your lab for this module builds a PO approval workflow end-to-end standard task, two-step WS trigger from ABAP monitor in SWI1. Coming up in C15, advanced ABAP reports, classical and interactive reports, ALV grid and ALV tree, list events and hotspots, layout variants and field catalog tricks, performance tuning for large result sets, and a hands-on lab building a multi-level interactive sales analysis report. Good luck with the lab, and I will see you in C15.